Let's talk about an organ that honestly most of us probably don't think about much, but it's working around the clock as the high-security headquarters for your body's entire immune system. We're talking about the spleen. Okay, to kick things off, just get a load of this. The Bajau people, who are often called sea nomads, have evolved to have these huge spleens. And it's not for nothing. Their spleen basically acts like a biological scuba tank, storing up oxygen-rich red blood cells that it then releases when they go on these incredibly deep dives. It's just a mind-blowing example of how adaptable and vital this organ really is. So that's pretty wild, right? But it really begs the question. Besides being a backup oxygen tank for divers, what is the spleen actually doing for the rest of us on a daily basis? Well, as it turns out, a whole lot.
To really get what it does, we've got to look at how it's built. And I think the best way to think about the spleen is not just as an organ, but as this brilliantly designed fortress with a really organized security layout. So let's take a quick tour.
All right, first things first. The spleen is the biggest organ in your whole lymphatic system. Its main job? To be the critical intersection, the grand central station, where your blood supply meets your immune defense network. This is ground zero for surveillance.
And when I say it's a busy intersection, I mean it's high volume. Get this, with every single beat of your heart, about a quarter of all the blood your heart pumps out flows directly through the spleen. This isn't just a slow trickle, it's a constant, high-speed filtering operation, scanning your entire blood supply again and again.
So this fortress is organized into 3 main security zones. You've got the red pulp, which is kind of like the quality control and recycling plant. It gets rid of old, worn-out red blood cells. Then there's the white pulp, which is the command center, the intelligence agency for your adaptive immune system. And finally, you have the marginal zone, this crucial border checkpoint that acts as the very first line of defense.
So let's start right there, at that border checkpoint, the marginal zone. This is where any potential threat floating around in your bloodstream gets its very first pat down. The design here is absolutely genius. In the marginal zone, the superhighway of your bloodstream intentionally slows way, way down. It's basically a purpose-built traffic jam. And that slowdown gives the specialized immune cells that are stationed there, cells like macrophage and specific B cells, the time they need to properly scan the passing traffic for any signs of trouble. And this is exactly how it works, step by step. The blood slows down. Macrophages act like security guards, literally grabbing and eating any bacteria they see. At the very same time, these specialized marginal zone B cells are snatching up little pieces of the invaders, which we call antigens. And all of this triggers an immediate alarm, the rapid release of IgM antibodies, which are your immune system's first wave attack force. Now, this is so important. Because of this unique setup, the spleen is literally the only organ in your body that can effectively fight off a particularly nasty type of germ known as encapsulated bacteria. These are bacteria with a slippery, slimy outer coating that lets them sneak past other parts of your immune system. Without the spleen, your body is a sitting duck for these guys. But you know, a quick first response isn't always enough for every threat. For long-term protection, your body needs a more sophisticated, targeted plan of attack. And for that, the spleen calls in the special ops from its own intelligence agency, the white pulp. The white pulp is basically a bunch of lymph node-like structures that are embedded right inside the spleen. This is command and control. This is where your highly specialized T cells and B cells get together, plan their strategy, and launch the powerful, long-lasting adaptive immune response. And inside this command center, you've got different teams of B cell operatives. We've already met the marginal zone B cells. They're the fast-acting first responders. But you also have B1 B cells, which produce a sort of baseline of natural antibodies, and then the really crucial follicular B cells. These are the masterminds responsible for creating that long-term learned immunity. And here is how beautifully it all connects. Those marginal zone B cells, they don't just fight, they also gather intel. They act like couriers, grabbing those enemy antigens at the border checkpoint and physically carrying them deeper into the white pulp command center. This delivery of enemy intelligence is the exact signal that kicks off the full-scale, long-term adaptive response. It's the perfect handshake between the immediate reaction and the strategic, learned one. So after hearing all of that, you can probably imagine that losing this guardian organ has some pretty serious consequences. So what actually happens when someone has to live without their spleen? Well, the condition is called asplenia. It can happen if someone is born without a spleen, or if a disease damages it beyond repair. But most of the time, it's because of a splenectomy. That's the surgical removal of the spleen, which often has to happen after a serious accident or injury.
And the difference is just it's night and day. With a spleen, you're an efficient machine for clearing out those dangerous encapsulated bacteria. Without it, you're suddenly at a huge risk for something called overwhelming post-splenectomy infection, or OPSI, which can be incredibly dangerous. You lose that rapid first wave of antibodies, and that critical link between the two parts of your immune system gets severed, leading to a much slower, much weaker response overall. And these right here are the specific enemies that become so much more threatening. Streptococcus pneumoniae, which causes pneumonia, Neisseria meningitis, a cause of meningitis, and Haemophilus influenzae type B. These are those encapsulated bacteria we talked about, the very ones the spleen is uniquely designed to destroy. And that's exactly why getting vaccinated against them is absolutely critical for anyone living without a spleen.
So, you see, the spleen isn't just a filter or a storage unit. It's a master integrator. It's the sophisticated, elegant piece of biology that perfectly connects our body's instant frontline defenses with its intelligent, long-term memory. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other incredible, elegant designs like this are hiding inside us, just working away in plain sight?
Let's talk about the spleen. It's this unsung hero, a really key player in your immune system.
I mean, it's a fist-sized organ that's basically your body's own personal bodyguard.
You'll find it tucked right under your left ribcage, a major hub for your immune defenses. Get this, with every single heartbeat, a quarter of your blood flows right through it for surveillance. Think of it as the ultimate quality control center for your blood. So, how does it work? Okay, inside the spleen, you've got two main parts with very different jobs: red pulp and white pulp. This whole internal setup is perfectly designed to filter blood and coordinate attacks on invaders. The red pulp is kind of like a recycling center. It clears out old blood cells and stores platelets. And the white pulp? That's your immune command center, where T cells and B cells get to work. Now, the spleen has a specialty, taking down a really tricky enemy called encapsulated bacteria. So how does it react so fast? Well, it's a pretty brilliant three-step process. This first response is incredibly fast and crucial. It buys time for the heavy hitters to get ready. But it's not just about the immediate fight. The spleen is also building your long-term defenses. Special cells then carry pieces of the invader over to that command center, the white pulp. And that's where your T cells get the signal to start coordinating a much smarter attack. This whole thing creates an immunologic memory, so you're protected from that same bug in the future. Which begs the question, what if this guardian is gone? Living without a spleen carries serious risks. The absolute biggest danger is something called OPSI, or overwhelming post-splenectomy infection. OPSI is a super fast, severe infection that can become life-threatening without the spleen's defenses. And the highest risk? Yep, those encapsulated bacteria, the very germs the spleen is built to fight. You see, the spleen is this amazing bridge between your immediate and your long-term immune responses. And here's the thing, no other organ can really do its job, not the liver, not your lymph nodes. It really is a sophisticated organ, acting as both a high-tech filter and a vital immune hub. We used to think it was non-essential. It makes you wonder, what else are we just beginning to understand?